they are proper asylum seekers, proper legitimate under the 1951 Geneva Convention. So the Home Secretary is wrong on a number of accounts.
How important do you think language is?
Well, I think it's very important because it influences public opinion, it influences the way people see refugees, and it shows hostility to people who are fleeing for safety. And I just think a Home Secretary should know better than to use such language. The more so as she's been criticised by one of her junior ministers, Robert Jendrik, who said one has to be careful about the language one uses. So it's inflammatory, it's totally unhelpful, and she shouldn't have said it.
The Home Secretary has described the asylum system as broken, and certainly when you look at the state of somewhere like Manston, you tend to lean toward that opinion. To what extent, though, do you think that's true? And if it is true, as it certainly seems to be, how can it be fixed?
Well, I think it is true. Let me give you a couple of examples. For example, in 2014, asylum applications receiving a decision within 6 months accounted for 87% of the total. Last year, it fell to 6%. In other words, the Home Office is not being able to process asylum applications, so people are hanging about. They're hanging about in Marston. They're hanging about everywhere, and it adds to uncertainty. It adds to unhappiness, and it's not the right way to conduct things. So I think the Home Office should first and foremost deal with asylum applications quickly so that people know where they are. Then if they don't claim for asylum and they don't have a qualification to be in this country, then they should go back to the country that they originated in. But most of the ones who've been coming, according to the best figures we have, 70% of those who've come across the channel by boat, they actually are given asylum status. So they are proper asylum seekers, proper legitimate under the 1951 Geneva Convention. So the Home Secretary is wrong on a number of accounts.
Do you think, to some extent, we need to reset our idea of migrants? Because, it has become a word that describes in a disparaging way people who come to this country.
Well, let's think about what the situation is about migration generally. There is a desperate shortage of labour. The hospitality industry up and down the country is saying they can't function without more people. We're desperately short of people in social care. All over the place, there are shortages of people. So we need inward migration to keep the economy going, to keep our businesses going. So that's the most obvious thing. And asylum seekers, in fact, will only contribute a small number of these. Nevertheless, they are part of the total. Let's remember, in 2016, Germany took virtually 1 million Syrians. They took them. Angela Merkel was damaged a bit in subsequent elections, but it was a large number, and they're contributing to the workforce, as are asylum seekers and migrants here.
Where do you think the disconnect happens? Because if you look at the strong public response we saw, where you and I spoke at the time, when the war in Ukraine began, and how the British population really welcomed Ukrainian refugees with open arms. Why does that same sensibility not seem to apply when people are escaping perhaps similar situations in further reaches of the globe?
I think a lot of the responsibility rests on senior politicians. We've talked about the Home Secretary, but on all senior politicians who shouldn't make speeches which express hostility to refugees and indeed to migrants, because that encourages the public also to be opposed. Where a government says, yes, these people have got a right to be here and they're welcome, then the public responds. So I think there's a great deal of onus on senior politicians to use language and to use sentiments which are positive rather than negative.
Just finally, Lord Dubs, you came here yourself as a child refugee. Tim Lawton told us that the UK, appears an easy option for migrants, and that's why people come here. But also we heard from a woman from Oxford University talking about migration and talking about the fact that a lot of people come here because they see us as a civilized, fair, and just nation. Do you think that we're doing damage to the latter, that reputation, at the moment?
Yes, I think we are. I think we've always been seen as a country that upholds decent standards in human rights and treats people in a humane and civilized manner. But can I just add this? That far more people claim asylum in Germany, in France, in Spain, and so on than they do here. So even the argument that they're all coming from France here is not true. Most of the asylum seekers actually stay in France and claim asylum there. But we are, I fear, becoming a less humane society, as you've said, and I'm very sorry about that.